Hi everyone, I'm going to be discussing the second prompt for this week's discussion, and this has to do with segregation of students by language needs and if it's ever appropriate or necessary. So ultimately what it comes down to, and this is something that Wayne discusses in chapter 5, is that it's really tricky because there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution to this topic. Schools and school districts are restricted by a lot of different factors that determine what programs and services are available and feasible in each school. In his text, Wayne talks a lot about the strengths of certain bilingual education programs, such as dual language and bilingual immersion program models, in comparison to monolingual or English medium forms of education. These strong forms of bilingual education don't create situations where students are being segregated from their peers because of language. However, he also says that, and I'm quoting here, strong forms of bilingual education may be very feasible in a school with large numbers of Spanish-speaking ELLs and less feasible in a school with dozens of different languages, but only a few speakers of each language. So what it comes down to is that while certain bilingual education programs are much stronger, it is not always possible to carry them out in certain schools or states. When it's not possible, emergent bilingual students still need effective education, so Wayne discusses the strengths and weaknesses of certain English medium programs. So in essence, he states that these programs should provide a combination of sheltered content area instruction, ESL instruction, and bilingual strategies. Ideally, this combination should not involve segregation of students, but it is not always possible. Again, it will vary between each school and will be restricted by what the school is able to provide effectively. One of these forms of segregation is a style he refers to as pull-out English, which is a very common form of English education in American schools, but it's definitely not the most effective, and it can create feelings of shame or even separation for students who are pulled out during class. He brings up the example of the students who said that she just feels dumb every time she gets pulled out of class, even though the other students never said anything to her. It's just that feeling that she had. It just didn't feel good. And so strategies, as in-class ESL, where students are not being segregated, but are instead receiving their ESL instruction in the class, can also be effective at avoiding segregation while providing emergent bilingual students with the necessary ESL instruction. But he says that it requires correct and continued cooperation between the ESL teacher and the homeroom teacher. And he says that this is not something that can always be done well. Sheltered English immersion programs can be effective as well and don't involve segregation, but aren't effective for some students, such as refugee students who would not be successful in an English classroom environment. He says in that case, things like a newcomer program, which does involve segregating the students for a few years to raise their English level and to focus on, ESL, is most appropriate. So, in short, segregation of students by language needs is something that is best to avoid, but it's not always possible. There are certain programs and program elements that are better at serving emergent bilingual students, but they are not feasible or possible in every school. Each school should consistently evaluate the needs of their EB students and balance it against what resources the school has available to it. More than anything, what schools are trying to avoid is a system of submersion where they just leave their emergent bilingual students to sink or swim and get no services. Thank you, guys.